Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. In today's episode, the goal is to double the horsepower on my Mk4 Toyota Supra. To give you a little recap, we went all the way to Japan to find this car, bought the car in Japan, shipped it home. It didn't run, so then we had to replace the fuel pump. We made it run, and then it had been crashed in Japan, so we fixed all the crash damage by taking out the core support, replacing the core support, new fenders, new hood, new rear quarter panel, and then we painted it all to match this beautiful silver color that it is today. Ta-da! Now we just gotta make it fast, like really fast. So we bought the best performance parts for this car on planet Earth, and we're gonna install them all in today's episode and then dyno test it to prove the results. Stay tuned! So we just shipped this thing, trailered it back from the other shop, and man, I just love how this paint turned out. It looks really good, and we're looking at the bad side right now, but when there's so much stuff for the lights to bounce off of, you don't really see the runs. We're gonna be fixing the runs in the next episode. This episode is all focused on engineering, engine stuff, mo power, baby. So if you wanna get a lot of power, it's not just doing a single turbo conversion too. You want an upgraded intercooler, upgraded downpipes, exhaust, all that good stuff, and we're gonna be doing all of that in today's episode. All of these front end panels are just lightly bolted in here for transport, so rather than risk scratching any of them, let's just take them all off really quickly, take off all the front end panels, take off the headlights, and that'll get us a lot more access to our engine. All right, we got all the bodywork stuff sitting over there. If you guys remember, we got to repaint this whole thing, and it's going to go this color of gray. So I will eventually, during this project, remove the rest of the coolant system since it's going to drain anyways, because the coolant goes into the turbos. So we'll get all that once I can find a bucket. We'll get all that stuff out of there, and then I can repaint all of this core support stuff. But let's focus on the twin turbo funness. I just watched a video of me doing this same project, the same exact deal on my 2JZ Swap BRZ, taking off the twins. It took me an entire day to get the stock twins off of here. That was 5 years ago. We'll see if I've learned anything. One thing I've learned is stuff goes faster when you have Oscar. So Oscar and I are gonna attack this. It is 4:40 right now. Let's see how long it takes. A little bit of blood, a little bit of sweat. It's 9:24. I'm going home. We'll see you tomorrow. This is an exciting morning. So I woke up bright and early, headed down to ETS, Extreme Turbo Systems, to get all of the goodies for this car. Like I said, the best car parts in the world. This is my reaction leaving their shop. I've got more high performance car parts in one car than I've ever had before. ETS, you guys are insane, the best. I feel like this is that scene where like they overnight parts from Japan and then they have them all, you know, taped on the top of the truck and they drive them back to the shop. That's me right now, going to make my Supra real fast. Back in the day, this would have just been the ground covered in a bunch of junk from eBay. But we're coming up in the world thanks to our buddies over at ETS. So what you see here is they literally make the best performance parts in the entire world. If you're gonna modify a top of the line import like a Supra, something super collectible, you cannot put junk parts on it. You have to put the best parts on it, and that's what they make, and that's why we partnered with them on this build. So we've got everything from their intercooler setup, their exhaust setup, to their single turbo conversion kit. It's just epic good stuff. Also, sponsorship from Garrett on our turbos and our Wastegates. So I'll be talking about that in a little bit when we jump into that. But for now, we're gonna start on the single turbo conversion. We're gonna get started installing the new stainless steel turbo manifold. So this is the exhaust manifold. They build all of their exhaust manifolds out of stainless steel with super thick walling. I think it's Schedule 40, and it's just beefy stuff that won't break, won't crack on you. And the level of craftsmanship on this, it's legit a piece of art, and it's dual runner. So you got 3 going up here and its own wastegate, 3 going up there and its own wastegate going into the twin scroll setup for the turbo. It's really trick thing. hell of a part. Let's go ahead and get it on the car. We got to do all of our own new studs, so we're going to be taking out the old studs, replacing the new studs, and bolting this thing up. Gave the exhaust manifold a quick test fit and realized that we're going to want to get our wastegates on here. At least they can still rotate a little bit, but we wanted to get them on here to check clearances as well. So introducing Garrett's new line of wastegates. These are badass. This is the 45 millimeter. They do them in 40, 45s, and 50s in a variety of different colors. I'll throw a link in the description. Huge thanks to Garrett for sending these out for us. These have been tested, R&D'd, and they have extremely good results. And for really high horsepower, crazy applications, you can also run water cooling in these things. So they are really trick. And thanks for sending that out, Garrett. So everything that you guys see here, there's going to be a link in the description for, by the way, if you're interested in picking it up. So now that we got those on there, we can go ahead and get this on there and test fit our turbo. Manifold fits, but your boy put the oil drain line on the turbski backwards. This has got to bend out this way. 1 second. Much better. All right, let's test fit this thing in there. How cool does that look? We got the turbo mocked up in here along with all the lines that we need to run. So this is a water cooled turbo. So you have a water return line, a water feed line. Actually, this is the feed down here. This is the return right here. Oil feed line, oil return line is that hard line that runs down there. This is a Garrett G30 770 turbo. It's part of their new G series line. So those turbos that are on that car are the older versions. These are the newer versions. They have super high response down low. So that's one thing, is a lot of people look at horsepower on the charts and they see the, the graph goes up, and then it hits their peak horsepower and then falls off. If you have a really good turbo, like a great Garrett turbo like this, sized perfectly for your engine, you're going to get into peak power at higher RP or lower RPM, not peak power, but good power, and have a usable power band across your RPMs, which makes a much faster car. That's what these things do really well, when you have the perfectly sorted turbo. And great response time is what I hear from my buddy Trevor at Motion Auto TV. He runs one of these, and really good response. I think Adam LZ has one too. So huge thanks to Garrett. Again, link's gonna be in the description. So now that we got the turbo and all the plumbing and everything figured out, this is a two-piece turbo that's held on with V-band. Well, all turbos are two pieces. So you can see we can actually clock it back and forth, side to side here. We're gonna take this core part out, leave just the hot side on here so we can get all the hardware on, get this thing gasketed and bolted on there for real. Get our exhaust manifold bolted all the way down, and then we will start doing the final installation, including the down pipe into the, you can kind of see we got the mid pipe test fit up down there already, waiting to receive it. Okay, turbo's in place. So we got intercooler stuff needs to come off of here, run through the front and go all through here, and exhaust stuff needs to go back there, and then we're ready to let it rip. So we're gonna start on the intercooler. We left the turbo V-band a little bit loose, so we have a little bit of play right here. It needs to come out here, go places, and do things. We don't know where it goes yet. We do need to take off the old intercooler stuff. So this is the old intercooler, and let me show you the new intercooler. Ta-da! Huge intercooler. This thing is good for like well over 1,000 horsepower. So on our path to upgrades, if we choose to upgrade this car big time, the intercooler will be with us the whole time. Intercooler piping, intercooler, got a bunch of elbows too. So we're gonna pull the OEM intercooler and intercooler piping and get to plumbing. Oh yeah, we also painted this gray to match that gray. We're getting really close to the first startup. We're all getting really excited. A couple little things to button up. Let me show you where we're at. The intercooler is mounted up, and this is the first spot where we've kind of ran into the issue of we are in a right-hand drive and this is a left-hand drive single turbo kit. So we've been kind of working with ETS, kind of showing them what we're modifying, what we're changing to make their kit work in right-hand drive so they can offer this to people in the right-hand drive market as well. So I figure probably now if you have a right-hand drive Supra and you want this kit, you can hit them up and it'll be fine. So modifications that we made is we needed an extra 45-degree elbow for our intercooler piping, which is buried down underneath that frame rail. But anyways, right there we threw in an extra 45, so that's not a big deal at all. And then the big thing is some handiwork that Oscar just did on this downpipe. Let me show you. So this downpipe came with the flex joint that is here, used to be right here. And this is the part that actually gets the closest to the steering rack and the steering shaft coming out of the back of the steering wheel. So what we did was we moved that from here to where we had a bunch more room down here, and now we're all good to go. So ETS could do this, since they build everything in-house, handmade, they could do this for anybody that's on right-hand drive, and you'd be ready to rock. So we're gonna go ahead and install this downpipe. Let me show you the rest of the exhaust. So from underneath the car, you can see the mid pipe all the way at the front, and then it runs all the way back with this awesome single piece. This is all 4-inch exhaust. Again, capable of handling absolutely enormous amounts of power running back to the ETS muffler. All stainless steel. I believe they could also make it in titanium if you wanted it in titanium. I mean, I would have loved it in titanium, but that's, you know, pretty big price tag stuff we're talking about, full titanium exhaust. So we got that in there yesterday as part of test fitting and mocking up the downpipe to figure out what modifications we needed to have. So we just got to install like one more exhaust hanger, and that stuff's all permanently in there once we bolt it onto the downpipe. So we'll get the downpipe in there, we'll bolt everything together, we're gonna put the hose clamps on the intercooler stuff, and then we should be ready to fire it up. It's exciting. Before we jump into the action, I want to take a second out to thank our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by Metal Supermarkets, the convenience store for metal. At Metal Supermarkets, you can get any metal at any size, cut and ready fast, and they have no minimum order quantities, which is really big for, you know, tinkerers or builders like myself. I might not need 1,000,000 feet of something, just want a short piece, they got you covered. The speed of service is unmatched. I often just head in there, tell them what I need, they'll cut it, hand it right back to me, or sometimes I call ahead and they have my order ready for me right when I get there. Their customer service is second to none. They have very, very helpful, knowledgeable staff there at all the locations, and it's always a pleasure to go in there. If you need some advice on what materials, they can help hook you up and help source hard to find metals for you as well. And they have a huge variety of different types of metals in all sorts of different shapes and grades on stock, and like I said, if they don't have it there, they can order it in for you. And with over 100 locations in North America, or you can buy online, there's definitely a Metal Supermarkets around you. Guys, this is the source for metal. This is where we source all the metal for every build that we've ever built. And it's a great resource to have. So next time you think I need some metal for this project I'm working on, think Metal Supermarkets. Guys, the link is in the description. It's metalsupermarkets.com. It's on the screen right here. Check it out, metalsupermarkets.com to find a store near you or buy online. Huge thanks to Metal Supermarkets for sponsoring this episode. Let's get down to work. All right guys, it's the next morning and the car is ready for its first startup. So we spent last night just working late into the night, finishing the little odds and ends, mostly just plumbing lines and hose clamps on our new intercooler system. So we've got our radiator ready to bleed the air out of it. Thank you, Oscar. And this means it's time for our first startup. We haven't heard how this thing sounds, so I'm really, really excited. Let's fire it up. Here we go, baby.
You think this one we blocked off in the back is an idle
air control?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to try unblocking it?
Yeah, maybe we just have to put a filter on that guy.
Yeah, if only it would idle. It sounds amazing. That's the coolest thing about these engines is it's like, sounds like, purrs like a kitten, nice and deep and throaty, and then when...
Unleashes hell.
Yeah, when the turbo starts spooling, it just unleashes all hell. We're gonna try it with that?
Yeah, try without it just for a sec.
That's the idle air controller.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we need to get a filter for that.
Yeah, that's funny.
We learned something.
I've never seen that before.
Dude, this is so awesome. How good does this sound?
Sounds so good. Ooh, that's a lot of air coming out of that blow-up valve. Look how blast of air is coming out. Don't go too crazy, it's a cold engine.
It's fine. It's a 2J, dude. It can handle everything.
Yeah.
All right.
So good.
So a lot of times on really sporty exhausts, it's somewhat unbearable, like in a 1,000 horsepower car, to drive around. This is the perfect level of volume for daily drivability. Like ETS really nailed it on this. It's not obnoxious. You can still hear it. You can hear your RPM, but then, you know, when you get on it, then it rips. So I'm very happy with this from a drivability standpoint. We're really focusing on drivability in this car. That's why we're not going full standalone ECU as well. And E85 is we want this to just be a car that you can quickly hop into and just drive around. And that's what that stock ECU reliability is going to give you, as well as not going E85. We could get this car into 700, 800 horsepower with this setup very quickly with the standalone and E85, but that's really the reason we're not doing it, is we want that daily drivability to be there. And honestly, 700 horsepower, 800 horsepower in a car like this is completely unusable. It's just more power than anybody needs, really. We have other cars that do that. Oh, and if anybody at home was wondering why we wouldn't get the car to start, this is the idle air control valve for the intake manifold, and we put a plug on this because we thought it was part of the recirculation system for the turbo. So that has to be open, so what we're gonna do is order a nice little 1-inch air filter so it gets nice filtered air going into there, and that'll be perfect. All right guys, we got this car back on the dyno. Last time we ran this car on the dyno, it did 240 horsepower. Oh, Oscar, you know what we should do before we do this? Smoke test. We should smoke test the engine, make sure we don't have any boost leaks. That is, anytime you're doing work with turbo systems, a smoke machine is like an $80 tool. You can order it on eBay or Amazon, and it will show you if you have any boost leaks. It can be very, very, very beneficial. So let's smoke test it real quick before we run it on the dyno. All right, Oscar's got pressure applied, got a couple PSI on here. It's about to blow off apparently. And the system is not leaking. Intercooler's not leaking, intake's not leaking. Okay, I'll turn it off, Oscar. He asked me to turn it off. He said if it blew off on the video, it'd be way better. Anyways, so system's good. Now we can go ahead and get it on a dyno. All right, it's time to push it. So the Wastegate springs are at 9 pounds. We do not have a boost controller installed right now, so we should see around 9 or 10 pounds a plateauing of the boost, and it's just gonna go full Wastegate, rain fire out the bottom of the car, and be loud as hell. That's what we're looking for on this first pull. By the way, in the last dyno video, some of you guys were kind of confused. Our dyno is a hub dyno. So what it does is it picks an RPM while I set it in the computer to stall the car out. And it wants me to floor the car full out at that RPM, and it'll hold the car back. That has to be the low RPM where you start your range of your pull. Why the Mustang was freaking out so much is it often causes knock because you don't have a car, say at 1500 RPM at full load. You should always switch gears so you have more torque and more power. So given that we've put a lot more power into this car, but it's still on the stock clutch, I'm not gonna be just going all out nuts flooring it in the load phase. I'm gonna kind of just time it right and floor it after the load phase. Shouldn't affect our pulls at all, but that's why you see it's like the car starts to like look like it's doing things and different stuff like that because the dyno is holding back all the power that the car has given it at that point in a very low RPM range, and then it lets it rip, and it rips all the way up to the top, and then it holds us back again actually at the top. So a lot of computers in this dyno. Is not just a free spinning wheel like other dynos. Those are really cool and I'd love to have one, but they take up like a lot more space. And these are technically more accurate and better, but and a lot safer, yeah. Well guys, I'm really sorry, but we have really bad news. The dyno is busted somehow. We're not really sure how. I just went on that spiel about how it's a load-based dyno. Well, so what happens is you tell it what RPM to kind of catch you at to slow the car down, and then you floor it, it releases you, and then it lets you run. Right when it tries to catch us and hold us back, this one on that side over there is having like a crazy malfunction, making a really bad sound, and the dynos can't really hold us back. They provided about, what was it, 110 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque worth of resistance, which is not a lot, and we just went like zip, and that was the clip that you guys heard here. And that's where we hit boost cut. So a boost cut in this car is happening at about 20 PSI. So we can clock that back, and we'll just get a normal boost gauge for the next episode when we're daily driving this thing. Since we're on the stock ECU, we don't actually need to tune it. All we were doing with this is telling you the horsepower. But I can tell you what 2Js do with a kit like this at 18 pounds of boost is going to be between 450 and 500 horsepower to the wheels, because so many people dyno test these all the time. I know that. And so that does like double our horsepower, but it's just unfortunate because I can't show you on the screen. But the car's boosting great. I took it out, we had to do like a test off the dyno, so I took it outside, did donuts, did figure eights, made sure it wasn't our diff, had fun with it. It's ripping, it's roaring, it's driving great. It's just, I can't show it to you on the dyno. It's kind of a bummer. We spent a small fortune to get that dyno, and it's basically just been a pain in our ass ever since we've got it. But that's just life, right? So if you live and you learn. But let's stay on the positive. This car is running great, and the mods that we did are awesome. So lots more power, doubled the power in the car, and they're reliable and they're working great. Cooling system's working great, everything's working great. So huge thanks to ETS for hooking us up with all of the supporting parts, the intercooler, all the exhaust manifolds, and the new exhaust system. And thanks to Garrett for the turbo and the Wastegates. Again, links are in the description. And thanks to you guys for watching and subscribing, and we will see you on the next episode for final assembly. Peace!